Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Fantasy Football Fix Game Week 21 live stream. My name is FPL Nacho, and I feel like this is going to be a very, very important live stream in the context of the FPL season so far. So first and foremost, we are on a live stream, of course, so get yourselves in the comment section. I want to see who is involved on this live stream in the chat, and as always, if you can drop a like on the live stream, that will be much appreciated. As always, we have a big announcement in regards to a potential double game week 22. So if you did not know already, about an hour or so ago, we have had a provisional double game week 22 announced for both Man United and Leeds. Now, this is going to be completely dependent on the FA Cup results. So Man United's FA Cup game against, I believe, Reading, and Leeds' game away against Boreham Wood, or I believe the replay of that game. That is going to be happening on January 28th, which is a Saturday. Depending on those results, if there are no draws in either fixture, we will have a confirmed double game week for Man United and for Leeds. Now, Man United's double game week in 22 is looking unbelievable. At home against Crystal Palace and at home against Leeds. Now, if you are sat there right now with your triple captain still available and a certain Marcus Rashford or Fernandes in your team, then you're licking your lips right now. This is an unbelievable opportunity for your teams. And I think I'm so jealous right now if that does happen, because I used my triple captain in game week 20. Leeds, of course, will have a double as well. It's really worth noting. They'll be away against Nottingham Forest and, of course, away against Man United. So Leeds assets, realistically, we're not going to be looking at any defenders. Midfielders, very far and few between. Maybe an investment in someone like Rodrigo. But there's one in particular in the forward line I want to discuss later on in this stream when we look at the fixtures coming up. But importantly, Man United, unbelievable opportunity for them with that double game week in 22. So guys, in the chat, first and foremost, let me know what your thoughts are on this potential double game week 22. And secondly, how many Man United assets do you have in your team? I currently have just Luke Shaw and Rashford. And I think the priority for me will be looking to squeeze in Bruno Fernandes for that potential double game week. If I can't get to Fernandes, I think naturally it will have to be a defender in the team, as I don't really fancy the game time of Martial. And realistically, outside of that, I don't really know what other direction I would go in with my Man United transfers. Now, Cheekster, I can see you're in the chat already. Hope you're doing well. I'm doing very well myself personally. I can never pronounce his name. Mudryk or Trossard, I think both are in a void right now. I love the motivation of trying to get in a bit of a differential into your FPL teams, but Trossard in particular is such a risk right now for game time, just coming into that Arsenal team that is such a well-oiled machine. Do not be touching Trossard. And in terms of Mudryk, I would not be surprised to see him start for Chelsea against Liverpool with all the injuries that they do have. But again, that one is certainly going to be a wait and see for your FPL teams right now. Rio saying, hi Nacho, is it worth a -4 to replace Andres Pereira for Mahrez? Now Mahrez, unbelievable performance once again in game week 20. And I think right now, my kind of overarching feeling on transfers for managers going into game week 21 is your team in a position where you can field 11 and feel quietly confident about it? Because really, I feel like having I personally feel like having a role transfer going into game week 21 is by far the best move that you can make, in particular because of this Man United double game week 22 announcement. Yes, I love the move to Mahrez for this game week at home against Wolves, but then you'll be going into game week 22. Could you have had 2 free transfers available to really utilise to maybe target some Man United assets for that double game week? So basically, guys, just to kind of summarise going into this live stream, I really do think rolling your free transfer is going to be such a powerful move this week. Cheeks said, I'm not sure about how many minutes Trossard would get in the Arsenal team unless someone up front gets injured or needs rotated in cup games. Yes, absolutely. And also Cheeks is doing the honest work in the chat of trying to get you guys to like the stream, which I will massively appreciate. We always try and hit 50 likes on the stream, and you guys never disappoint. So if you are listening along and you are enjoying it, just drop the stream a like. That'll be massively appreciated. It just shows me that you are enjoying the stream, because otherwise I might get a little bit worried that it's not delivering any value to you guys. And Chineza, what a fantastic name. Hi Nacho, good day from Nigeria. Hope you're doing very well from Nigeria. Amina saying, is it worth to get March or Matoma for a -4? And I think right now, Amina, the answer is going to be no. I think a -4, while it is tempting to bring in one of those two assets, we still don't have a double game week announcement for these Brighton assets. So in this situation right now, we are going to come on to Brighton assets. Apologies there. We are going to come into Brighton assets in a moment in regards to March and Matoma. For a -4, I don't think it's worthwhile. So guys, what we're going to do right now, because the comments have come in, it's fantastic, I will be answering them. I'm just going to put up the next screen, which is going to be my Game Week 21 team reveal. Let's get into that one there. Okay guys, so as you can see on screen, we have got my Game Week 21 team reveal. So, you guys that tune in quite a lot will realise that I never, ever have my team reveal, because I never know what I'm doing with my team. I am always waiting until the last minute to make a decision on what direction to go in. But with this game week coming up, I honestly think that rolling the free transfer is by far the best thing that you can possibly do. And the main reason being for it is, with the results of the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup, we are going to get so much more transparency on what the fixtures are looking like going forward. And because of that very reason, I think having 2 free transfers to go into Game Week 22 is going to be so powerful for your teams. And for example, in a position right now in this team where you can see I have got only 2 Man United assets in my team, I really do think that we're in a position right now where having the second free transfer to get into these Man United assets is going to be such a better move for your teams. Now, in regards to my team for Game Week 21, you can see here that I have a bit of a deliberation whether to go for Ward or Kepa. And I honestly think both are going to be in a position where they don't keep a clean sheet. So we're going to be in that tricky position where both are probably going to be conceding. So it's which one do you think is going to accumulate potential save points? Now, first and foremost, as I mentioned, I do anticipate both to be conceding, which is never a good spot when you have 2 goalkeepers that you're debating. But I do think if either are going to keep a clean sheet, then it could be Ward at home against Brighton. Now, Brighton have been on absolute fire recently. There's no denying it. But I think there is that chance that Brighton may revert back to their usual ways of having plenty of chances, plenty of expected goals, but not getting it in the onion bag. And I'm praying it's going to be that game week in Game Week 21. Fingers crossed. Defence, I believe, picks itself. White at home against Man United, I believe, is better than Shaw away. And the main reason being for that is the absence of Casemiro. I think Casemiro in that Man United team is such an important cog in the system. Taking him out of it, I think, just hinders Man United from a defensive perspective. So that's why I'm favouring Ben White over Luke Shaw this game week. Trippier and Doherty basically pick themselves. And yes, you're probably wondering, what are you doing with Matt Doherty in your team? And I have to agree, it was a ridiculous moment in my season so far. But lo and behold, I have been left with Matt Doherty. And it's worth noting, even if Matt Doherty was going to be confirmed on the bench for this game week, I still think I would roll my free transfer. I value it that much. It would just be a case of obviously starting Shaw over Doherty if we were to get that information. Moving into the midfield, Martinelli, De Bruyne, Rashford, Almiron, I am more than happy to have going into this week. Of course, I would love to have someone like Odegaard into the team. Of course, I would love to have Mahrez. But as I said, and I'm going to reiterate, having that second free transfer available for Game Week 22 is going to be so much more valuable than making a transfer this game week. And in the front line, Mitrovic, Haaland and Kane. Whisper it quietly. I think we're in for a Mitrovic goal against Spurs. What I saw with Spurs defensively, they still are not at the races at all. Now, it's worth noting, in regards to Fulham at home, a lot of people think that Craven Cottage is a tough place to go to, and it is from a results perspective. But from a defensive perspective, they have conceded the biggest expected goals conceded of any team. at home. So it's worth noting that they are not watertight by any stretch of the imagination. And we saw that when Chelsea went there. Chelsea, a team that are struggling so much this season with no natural goal scorer, still posted up really good expected goals, even with 10 men as well, it's worth noting. So I think Mitrovic, if you have him, is definitely a hold this week. I can foresee goals in this Fulham Spurs game. And Kane, again, yes, he blanked from a goal scorer's perspective in this double game week. But against this Fulham team, I really do think there could be a big haul for him this week. Is it enough to put the captaincy on him? I do not believe so, because that is going to be on Erling Haaland. Very difficult to go away from Erling Haaland from an ownership perspective. And with my rank currently being at 400,000th, I just can't be taking any major risks right now. And I think with a lot of managers sat there in a position where their rank is in the 500,000, millions, you start to think to yourself, is it the week to take risks? And I really think personally, and I've always been of the mindset of this, when you're making calculated risks, I think there are some that you can swing against, and there are ones that you just have to accept are going to kill your rank. And I think going against Haaland's captaincy this week is one of those perfect examples. I think having ownership in players is better than having ownership in the captaincy. So what I mean by that is having the combinations of, for example, De Bruyne plus Kane plus Rashford, I think is a better differential than going for a differential captaincy in your team. So I think having those combinations is better than going for a 1 week swing on a captaincy. Now, just looking at the comments here, I can see Mad saying, good evening, I want to roll the free transfer, but I have Foden. I cross my fingers that you're playing against Wolves and then soon a double game. Yes, this is the big problem with Phil Foden and any Man City option. I think a lot of managers are probably sat there thinking, do I downgrade De Bruyne to Mahrez? Do I do my sideways move from Foden to Mahrez? And I really do think we're in a situation right now where any Man City option is just an absolute risk. And I think if you have Foden, you just take your medicine, you play him at home against Wolves unless we get any confirmation that he is out. And then we go into a position where you can then go into game week 22 with your 2 free transfers at hand and decide what direction you want to go in. Sorry guys, I was just double checking a message I had then. Apologies then. Okay, so Anime saying I'm rolling my free transfer to triple captain and Rashford. Yes, guys, if you are new to the chat, just to kind of reiterate the news, Man United have had a provisional double game week 22 in the books. Okay, so this is really worth having in your kind of back of mind when you are making transfers this week, if any. Man United could have a double against Crystal Palace at home and Leeds at home. They don't come much better than that from a defensive attacking perspective. And Leeds will have a double game week in 22 away against Man United and away against Nottingham Forest. Now, these are going to be dependent on the FA Cups. We need to not have a replay in order for that double game week to happen. But as I said, if you are looking to make moves this week, just be cautious that you're going to want a triple Man United investment in game week 22. And if you are sat there with your triple captain available to you, I think it's going to be incredibly hard to not go for that triple captain on Fernandes or Rashford in game week 22. And I can almost guarantee that the ownership of Rashford is going to be 150% effective ownership, 100%. Lee Fisher saying, would you take out KDB for Bruno in game week 22, then swap back to KDB in 21? And this is absolutely a strategy I think a lot of managers are going to go towards, and one that I think I will be tempted by as well. Now, just to reiterate, with Man United, they will have their fixture against Arsenal in game week 21, the double in game week 22, and then they will be coming into Leeds away, followed by Leicester at home, followed by Brentford at home. So Man United are coming into a fantastic run of games. And I almost feel like if Fernandes was, for example, to haul in that double game week of 22 and Kevin De Bruyne continue to blank, I think there's going to be a few managers that think to themselves, I don't want to go back to Kevin De Bruyne for that double game week, and may even feel like they want to go for a downgrade option in someone like Mahrez if he continues that run. So yes, I think the hop on, hop off strategy is possible. But I also think if Fernandes continues to return, I don't think you can move away from him. I think you're going to have to stick with him in your teams. Now, guys, I obviously will be coming back to the questions in the chat 100%. But what I want to do is just show up one of the slides that we do have. So just to reiterate my team on screen here and confirm, I will be rolling my free transfer unless we get any sort of kind of announcement between now and the Game Week 21 deadline. This is how my team will look. I will go for Ward over Kepa between the sticks, pray that Leicester turn up and somehow keep this Brighton team out. I will have the captaincy on Haaland with the vice captaincy on Harry Kane, and I will play Ben White over Luke Shaw in terms of team selection. The rest kind of picks itself. So let's get into another slide here, which is looking at Arsenal attackers. As yes, we've had a double game week 22 announcement for Man United, but I really do think that we need to have our eyes firmly on Arsenal triple up, as they are the best team in the league by far. And having a confirmed double game week 23 just means that we really do need to pay our attention to these assets. So guys, here is a fantastic graphic mocked up by Finn on looking at which I deem the 4 best Arsenal attacking assets. Now, it's worth noting, I absolutely think that Arsenal defensive coverage is needed in your team. I think Ben White is a fantastic value pick in that Arsenal team. But having double Arsenal attack, I think, is going to be pretty essential moving forward. I wouldn't probably go for double Arsenal defense, 1 attack. I would probably go 1 defense, double attack. And I think the value in them is so good this season. Now, I will be absolutely astonished if everybody in this chat doesn't have at least 1 Arsenal attacking option. And I think rightly so, we have been sticking with 1 attacking option because of the value in the game that we've had presented to us. But with their fixtures coming up, and I'm just going to read them out to you so you know them on screen. Man United at home, Everton away. This is an Everton team that have been losing for fun at home. Then a double game week against Brentford at home and Man City at home. Then Villa away, Leicester away, and Bournemouth at home. So, fantastic run of fixtures for Arsenal long term. And I really think prioritising your transfers towards an Arsenal player is going to be a good strategy going forward. Now, of course, with the double game week announcement for Man United and Leeds in 22, I think that is going to slightly skew the direction that we do go for our transfers. And while Arsenal may have been the priority with that Everton away fixture, I now think eyes are going to be turned towards maybe Bruno Fernandes if you haven't got that investment already. And while I still think that is an absolute imperative move, I'm just thinking a bit more longer term from our teams and the value that these players offer. I just don't want that double game week 22 to kind of forget how important these Arsenal attacking assets are. Now, you can see on the screen here, we've compared 3 Arsenal midfielders in Saka, Martinelli and Odegaard to the forward in Nketiah. So just remember that when we are comparing the underlying stats between these players. Now, Nketiah leading the way for both expected FPL points per 90 and expected goals. And you can see that 0.67 expected goals per 90. We had worries about Nketiah's potential returns in this Arsenal team. Is he up to scratch? Can he replace Gabriel Jesus? He's doing it on an output perspective, but importantly, the underlying stats are there to be behold. We knew that he is never going to be a chance creator, chance provider in this Arsenal team. He is all about goals, which is almost slightly the opposite of what Gabriel Jesus was offering in this Arsenal team. So I really do like Nketiah as a budget forward option in your team from game week 22 onwards. And it may even be an amazing enabler for your teams. There could be some people sat here right now with potentially an ownership in Kevin De Bruyne or even someone like Mo Salah. And also someone like Harry Kane in their team. Now, what I love about this situation here is we could potentially, if you wanted to, go down from Harry Kane to Nketiah in game week 22. Again, this is just an idea here. Go down from Kane to Nketiah and then upgrade someone maybe like an Almiron to someone like a Bruno Fernandes and capitalise on this double game week 22 that they may have. That way, you're getting rid of Harry Kane for his fixture against Man City, and you're getting in someone like Nketiah who has a double game week 23. Not to say Harry Kane isn't essential long term, because I still think he's a fantastic option, but I'm just kind of planting a few seeds here. Maybe that cash cow move down to Nketiah with these underlying stats is worthwhile for you to then enable yourself Bruno Fernandes in your game week 22 squads. Now, when we're looking at priority for Arsenal midfielders, I really think Odegaard is the way to go. Now, if they were all the same price, I think Saka probably will edge it because he is on penalties, and I think that's such a big factor when we are considering FPL options. But we need to remember, Odegaard is 1.3 million cheaper than Saka, and he's posting pretty much identical expected goals per 90, considerably better expected assists per 90, basically double of what Saka is. And I always come back to this on live streams, guys, and you know that I am probably boring you with this, but it doesn't get spoken about enough. Bonus points make a good FPL asset or a great FPL asset, and you can see that here on the underlying stats for Odegaard. 1.13 bonus points per 90 compared to Saka's 0.4. So we're looking at basically across the course of the season, Odegaard racking up triple the amount of bonus points as what Saka will deliver. And these are the differences where we are considering FPL options. Not only are you getting Odegaard cheaper, you're also getting a bonus point magnet. And the reason being, if you're sat there in the chat thinking, why does Odegaard accumulate so many more bonus points? It's because of his influence that he has on the team. He not only provides assists and therefore chances created, key passes that rack up the bonus points, he also offers the goal threat, so shots on target, shot volume, goal scoring, assists. So because of all these factors and how much of a well-rounded asset he is just basically designed for FPL bonus points. And that's why I think he is by far the best Arsenal midfielder going forward. Martinelli looks really well rounded in the underlying stats here from an expected goal and an expected assist perspective. But why would you go for Martinelli right now when you have someone like Odegaard who's outstatting him in both departments, is guaranteed game time, and with the signing of Trossard puts question marks over the potential rotation risk of Martinelli going forward. So just to round up the Arsenal attacking assets, I think if you don't have any, I think the priority is getting yourself ownership in Martin Odegaard. Years gone by, I would have told you that he is kind of an asset that's going to pick up few and far between returns. But with these sorts of numbers, I don't see why they aren't going to continue going forward. If you are sat there with a Martinelli, I don't think going sideways to Odegaard is necessarily a priority at all. I think now with the double game week 22 Man United announcement, that is going to be a priority, getting the investment in the Man United team. So I wouldn't be using one of your free transfers to do Arsenal to Arsenal. But if you're in a position to then double down on Arsenal midfielders, I think Martinelli plus Odegaard is the best use of your funds in the midfield. And realistically, if I had to pick one from scratch, I probably would have Nketiah in the front line, complemented with Odegaard in the midfield. And I'd probably sacrifice that Mitrovic spot in the team to have Nketiah there as my second Arsenal position. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. I'd be really interested to know what kind of combination you're thinking about Arsenal attacking assets. And just to reiterate, yes, Man United have got a double game week 22, but we have to remember Arsenal still the best team in the league, realistic from an attacking perspective, underlying numbers. And importantly, have a double game week 23 confirmed. One thing I want to address as well, projected points over the next 5 for these assets is so incredibly close. 23.4 is Martinelli leading the way, but realistically 23 for Saka, 22 for Odegaard, 22.6 for Odegaard. So little in it, I don't really think you need to lose too much sleep over the decision that you go for if you are judging it just off projected points. Right, I'm just checking out some of the comments in here, guys. Greg saying, I've already used my free transfer. Would you consider taking a -4 to get Fernandes for Andreas and either Martial to Nacho or Digne to another defender or even both? Well, Greg, first and foremost, I would not be using another transfer this game week to prioritise someone like Fernandes. A really, really tricky fixture that they have this week against Arsenal. I think you just leave the team how it is and go into game week 22 with the information then confirmed whether they do have the double game week or not. Anyway, saying, just answered a few questions. Lay says, sorry it's late, no worries at all. Mikhail saying, is it time for Isaac in, Mitro out? Now, Isaac is definitely somebody who is going to be an FPL option later down the line. But right now, after the return of such a long injury, I really don't think it is the time for Isaac right now. I think, if anything, we need to consider how Isaac is going to influence the game time of Almiron. Is Eddie Howe going to go for Wilson plus Isaac? Is Isaac going to accommodate the position that Almiron was in? This is one that I think isn't a consideration for Isaac right now, just because the game time is too unpredictable. But I really do think that it is more of a case of how is this going to impact Almiron? Almiron's numbers since the World Cup have really, really regressed. It has been really, really worrying as an Almiron owner. Yes, it could improve, but I think with the return of Isaac, I'm starting to question how long Almiron has left in my team. And with Brighton assets looking such fantastic value picks, I'm not really considering Isaac. My question is, could it be time to sell Almiron and look to bring in a Brighton asset, or even have that placeholder for a Man United option like a Bruno Fernandes if you were looking to then downgrade another position in your team? Is John Stones a good option for my wildcard? I think John Stones is probably one of the safest Man City defenders for you to choose. But the one thing I am going to say to you is this. We have seen the perfect example of Pep Roulette over the last few game weeks. And if you do look to buy a Man City option, I just think we need to accept that whichever option you buy is massively at risk of rotation at any point, any game, period. We thought that with lots of different assets. We thought there's no chance Kevin De Bruyne would get dropped for a big fixture against Spurs. Doesn't get a single minute. Walker, we thought he'd play against Son. Rico Lewis comes in. I couldn't sit here and tell you exactly which defender to go for, but if I had to just bet on one, it probably would be John Stones of the bunch. Good evening, Chris. Hope you're doing well. And I'm going to say my plan for now is to get Bruno and Nacho Game Week 22 for free. Yes, I don't mind those moves at all. We haven't got a slide for Nacho, but he has been fantastic so far this season. Now, I want to say that I think he's getting a little bit overhyped. His underlying stats aren't one that I'm thinking, oh my God, I have to own this player 100%. But at 5 million as a forward, if you don't want to get yourself invested into someone like an Nketiah at this price range and you want to go cheaper, I think Nacho's an absolute no-brainer with the fixtures coming up for Leeds. Long-term, they are brilliant. At home to Brentford, a potential double in Game Week 22. Then they have Man United at home, followed by Everton away, followed by Southampton at home. Brilliant long-term fixtures for Leeds. They are scoring goals, and Nacho's looking like a shoo-in right now for his game time. Just catching up with some of the comments here. Mads is saying, I already have Odegaard, Martinelli and White. Happy with that. Maybe do something with Martinelli later if Trossard's good. Yeah, so Mads, I think you're in a perfect position right now. I think you're in a spot where you just leave it how it is. If there was a position later down the line where Martinelli was to share game time with Trossard, then we address that situation. But right now, nothing to worry about. I think you have a fantastic combination in your team there. Lewis Cohn saying, I have one free transfer, but I'm willing to get rid of Foden for Odegaard and Pereira for Matoma/March. I already have Mitrovic and Martinelli. Worth it or avoid this case? So, Lewis, really, really tricky position here because I absolutely empathise with you, the situation you're in with Foden. Don't know whether Pep's just kind of given up with him in regards to his motivation, whether he's not showing the fight that Pep is talking about in his press conferences. I really think, and I know I sound like a broken record here, but rolling your free transfer into Game Week 22 would still be the best position. I know Foden is causing you no ends of headaches week in, week out, but I really think I would just start Phil Foden at home against Wolves this week and just pray that he starts. Then we can just accept that what will be afterwards, and you can use him as a placeholder to bring in the assets later down the line. Foden as well at that price point could be an amazing placeholder for you to maybe bring in Bruno Fernandes. So if we do get that double Game Week 22 announcement and it is confirmed, I think I would rather hold Foden for this week and then use him as a placeholder for Bruno Fernandes in Game Week 22 with those two free transfers that you do have. Now, guys, obviously, I'll come back to the comments, so please do keep putting them in. I will be answering them throughout this stream. We'll be going for another 20-odd minutes or so plenty of time to answer your questions in the chat. And again, if you are enjoying it, please do consider hitting a like on the stream. It really is appreciated. It just shows us that you are enjoying the content that is being produced on this live stream here. So, guys, I was just going to move this on to the predicted points for Game Week 21. I know this offers a lot of value to you guys and might solve a few headaches that you might have from a transfer perspective. So here we have the projected points for players in Game Week 21. Again, I'm going to leave this on screen for you guys to kind of check out, as there's a lot of information to delve into here. But of course, I am going to pick up the kind of macro view on this and the ones that are worth highlighting. So first and foremost, you can see the highest predicted points for any player this week is going to be Erling Haaland at 7.8 projected points. I really think going against Haaland this game week is just not worth it. The ownership right now in the game is big. Every time he gets captained, he takes his effective ownership to 150% plus. Yes, I think with Kevin De Bruyne getting rested this game week does mean that there is a temptation to put the captaincy on him. But I really don't know what Pep's going to do. If I had to bet on it, I do think Kevin De Bruyne comes straight back into this team. But we know that he missed training all week, potentially due to personal reasons, potentially due to a slight fitness concern. So we really don't know what position Pep's going to go into this Wolves game at home. And because of that worry, I just think putting the captain on Haaland is the logical move. Outside of that, Harry Kane would probably be my temptation otherwise. Yes, he's only projected to score 5 points, but as I mentioned with Fulham, they have the worst home record from expected goals conceded. Yes, Craven Cottage is a tough place to get results from, but from a goal scoring perspective, there's plenty of chances available to them. And although Spurs have been pretty poor the last few game weeks, they've actually posted some okay expected goal numbers. And I do anticipate Kane to pick up a few returns in this Fulham home away game. So if you are looking for an alternative, I probably would look to Harry Kane next after Haaland. But look, I'll leave this on the screen for you guys here. You can see it is very, very close between certain players. For example, Martinelli and Saka, exactly the same projected points. Trippier, of course, leading the way for defenders, just an absolute essential to your teams. And again, I want you guys to let me know in the chat, is anybody without Kieran Trippier this week? I will be astonished if that is true, but I really want to know if someone has been going the whole season without Kieran Trippier. Mikhail saying, do I get rid of Martial? If yes, then for who? Mikhail, you're in a really tricky spot right now because I really do empathise in your position. I believe Martial hasn't really been training this week. It's worth, well, I say training this week. Obviously, he missed the Crystal Palace game. Is he going to be fit for the game this weekend? I really couldn't sit here and tell you. But I think with the potential of the double game week 22, I would almost just suck it up almost and think to myself, I'm just going to keep Martial. Pray that he's available for the double game week 22 if it happens. And if we do get news that the injury may be worse than what we first was reported, then you consider moving him out in game week 22. Immortal Technique, hope you're doing well. No worries at all for turning up late. Ram, Cancelo replacement. Okay, yeah, Ram. So you're in a bit of a tricky spot right now in regards to the Cancelo replacement because very similar to what happened with Foden. I absolutely think that you're in a position right now where he can start any place, any time. I would not be astonished. I would not be shocked at all if we were to see Cancelo start against Wolves at home. But unfortunately, I think it is one of those positions where we need to look at it from the grand scheme of things. He's about 7.3, 7.4 million. He's not guaranteed to play any week whatsoever. I mean, at that price point, I need guaranteed game time, guaranteed clean sheets, and attacking returns. And you can't tick the box on any of those for Cancelo. Now, would I sell Cancelo this week or roll my free transfer? The answer here is going to be, again, a broken record, but I would roll my free transfer. I would start Cancelo, pray that he does start against Wolves at home, and have my 2 free transfers available. The reason being for this, if Cancelo doesn't play, again, it is frustrating, but then you can kind of make your bed and accept, I'm going to use Cancelo as a cash cow for game week 22 to enable other parts of my team to upgrade into Man United options. So, for example, you could be in a position where you could downgrade Cancelo in game week 22 to a Newcastle defender, and then you could upgrade a midfielder like Almiron to a Bruno Fernandes. Just an example there if you were to have the money available. I think Cancelo could be a really important cash cow for your team, having 2 free transfers, rather than just getting rid of him this week when he easily could start at home against Wolves. No worries, Lewis. Hope that did help. Ram saying, White or Stones? I'm currently thinking, have Trippier... Look, if I was picking between White or Stones, I probably would just go for Ben White. The cheaper option, guaranteed game time and a confirmed double in 23. Yes, I know Man City have a double as well. But I just think having an investment in the Arsenal defence that you clearly don't have right now is the right move for your team going forward long term. Chinese is saying, choosing between Rashford and Fernandes for Game Week 22 triple captain is a bit of a gamble. Wish it was easy. Yes, this feels like it is going to be a big one for not only triple captainers, but captainers as well. Again, we will have a specific double Game Week 22 live stream tailored towards that if it is to be absolutely confirmed off the back of the FA Cup results. So do not worry at all. Something to worry about a little bit later down the line for sure. And Mark saying Nacho or Isaac, as it seems that Nacho only came around whilst Bamford was injured. And yes, I do think that is definitely worth an argument, but I also think Isaac is a rotation risk as well. And at their price points, I'd rather go for the cheaper option in Nacho, who has a double in game week 22 potentially, and also probably won't have a blank. Whereas Isaac, if results go a certain direction, Newcastle could blank in game week 25. I would much rather go for the short-term potential of Nacho, Leeds double game week 22 and future fixtures, rather than paying the money on Isaac, who's just returned from a big injury, rotation risk. I think Nacho's the answer there. Ram saying true, yes, but that game against Wolves is a definite clean sheet, I think, if Stones plays and White playing Man United too. Yes, so this is all about the timescale horizon that you approach your transfers. If you are looking at immediate returns, then absolutely Stones is the route for you to go for. If you're viewing it over a 5-game week period, then I will start to favour Ben White. And again, it isn't necessarily a case of him getting the most points. It's points per value. Ben White being the price point of 4.7 million, I believe, and John Stones about 5.3. Yes, Stones might outscore Ben White, but is it enough to justify the 0.6 million more? That's going to be a question waiting to be answered, unfortunately. And again, guys, Cheeks is doing a fantastic job in the chat of moderating. I really do appreciate it, Cheekster, and it's awesome to have you on board as a moderator. It has been a long time coming. So, guys, show your love to Cheekster in the chat. And also, if you can drop a like on the live stream, it'll be massively appreciated as always. So, we've had a few questions about the Brighton assets. We covered it in a previous video, but I thought it was a fantastic opportunity for me just to deep dive again on the Brighton assets, just to come to some sort of conclusion if managers out there still don't know what direction they want to go for if they are looking to bring in a Brighton option. So guys, here we have a pretty decent, I'm going to say a fantastic graphic here mocked up by Finn, looking at Brighton midfielder comparison under De Zerbi. So I'm not considering Graham Potter's tenure because I do think times have changed under De Zerbi, and we've got a big enough sample size now between game weeks 9 and game weeks 20 to start to draw up some conclusions on which players are offering good value. Now, I want to put a caveat in here. Of course, difficult time frame to analyse because the World Cup was dropped in the middle. McAllister, maybe a slight positional change, but also struggling to get back into the full fitness because of his exertions in the World Cup. So, stats here are based on per 90 minutes. We've got Matoma, McAllister, March, and Pascal Gross. Now, I think naturally we can almost split these off into a 1v1 comparison. I think Matoma and March are two that are being compared against one another, and McAllister versus Pascal Gross because of the positions that they're taking up. Matoma and basically March are operating as the wingers in this Brighton team. McAllister playing as either a double pivot or in the number 10, depending on Lallana's fitness. And Pascal Gross has really been the James Milner of Brighton. He's been operating as a centre mid. He's also been operating as a right back. So there has been plenty of rotation for Pascal Gross. Now, looking at the underlying stats here, those that are highlighted in green means that they are the best in each department. So you can see Matoma, best per 90 minutes for expected goals at 0.35. Second best is Solly March at 0.19. And in the expected assist department, March is leading the way at 0.26 per 90. Matoma, 0.21. You can see a common trend forming here, guys. Big chances per 90. And this is one that I really do like looking into, and one that maybe not a lot of managers consider going forward. 0.9 shows to me that Matoma is picking up some fantastic positions on the pitch, whereas Solly March, on the other hand, only 0.26 per 90. Is he getting into those goal scoring positions as often? I don't know necessarily, but again, it is worth noting that with the absence of Trossard, we have started to see a slight positional change for Solly March, where more of an emphasis on him being a goal scorer in that Brighton team. But again, time will tell whether that is going to be a reoccurring theme or not. So, again, I think the big debate here right now is which asset to go for. Now, it's worth noting, since this graphic was created, Matoma has risen to 5 million in price. So just make sure you are aware of that. So the way I'm going to rank these right now, I personally would have Pascal Gross as number 4. I think the rotation in positions, him playing right back 1 week, centre mid. Yes, he does have some set piece influence, But looking at the numbers as well, there isn't necessarily anything there screaming out to me to suggest I should pay the top bracket price at 5.6 million when we could get someone like Mitoma at 0.6 million cheaper. So I'm going to put Pascal Gross as number 4 out of the Brighton midfielders. Now, next up, I'm going to have third as McAllister. I think McAllister has a really interesting FPL ceiling where he could emerge as a purple patch player. And what I mean by that is a slight positional change for McAllister. Maybe De Zerbi opts for a Caicedo double pivot alongside Pascal Gross at some point, and McAllister pushes forward into attacking positions. Then I think his numbers will enhance. But right now, based on the numbers that we're looking at, 0.11 XG per 90 and 0.08, I would want to see him getting more attacking in a more influential position before I was even consider McAllister as an option, in particular 5.4 million. It is worth noting his predicted points over the next 4 game weeks is actually the best at 18.3. But again, these are very, very close between McAllister, Mitoma and March. So I would have McAllister as number 3 unless we do get a radical change in the position where he is operating as a late runner into the box. So it basically comes down to Mitoma versus March. And honestly, I know it's very much a fence answer, a cop-out answer, but I don't think you can go too far wrong with either. And what I mean by not too far wrong is I'm not talking about the outcome, I'm talking about your decision making. We talk about this a lot on the stream, and I really want to kind of really make sure you guys have this mindset when you do play FPL, because I think recent game weeks have gotten a lot of people down, and a lot of people are questioning why they play the game because of big swings in the game. And this feels like it could be one going forward. When you make your decisions in FPL for your transfers, make sure you do make them based on a logical perspective. So looking at this example, which is a perfect real world example, we have Mitoma versus March. And you can see here, expected goals in Mitoma's favour, but expected assists are in March's favour. But importantly, expected FPL points, very, very similar. And I would argue that there isn't too much between them. Now, if over the next 4 game weeks, Mitoma was to outscore Solly March by 30 plus points, I think you need to remember this sort of moment where you were looking at the comparison and say to yourself that whatever will be with the outcome. There is no hint in these underlying stats that are presented in front of us, all the touch heat maps that we have been analysing, to suggest that there could be one of these that is going to hugely outscore the other. However, those outcomes can absolutely happen. I'm sure you've had your stories in the past about A or B, and the other one has gone really big compared to the one that you've chosen. So we need to remember, we cannot control the outcomes. We can only control the decision making that we have and the choice that we make. After that, completely out of our control. So that's what I mean by I don't think there's much in between these two. The outcome might be a lot, but the decision right now, I don't think there is too much in it. That said, I do have to give you an answer here. And while a lot of people are going with Solly March, I'm going to go for Mitoma as my number 1 pick. Eye test, absolutely shredding his fullbacks to pieces. Now, I do feel almost a little bit with Mitoma that it's kind of that example where he gets into the final third and his decision making isn't the best. But I'm just seeing a guy right now who is creating chances on his own, not necessarily being dependent on the rest of the team. His 1v1 dribbling, the way that he attacks his fullbacks, just creates chances in their self. And looking at the goal threat that he's offering per 90 minutes, expected goals, big chances per 90, I think I'd rather favour for the guy right now who is just posting those slightly better numbers and hope that I get on the right side of the coin that is flipped this game week. But look, Brighton assets, amazing value. We might get a double game week announcement later down the line, so be cautious of that. And also, I would say, I wouldn't buy him this week. Unless you have 2 free transfers and you're going to be burning one, I still think rolling your free transfer into game week 22 is still the right move to make. Then we can look at bringing in our Brighton assets, our Man United assets for that double game week 22. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. I'll be really interested to know which Brighton asset you are considering for the longer term, if any. Obviously, they're not an essential pick. Brian saying Rodrigo double game week 22 versus Almiron favourable 22 against West Ham. So, yeah, this is a tricky one right now because I do think Rodrigo is the answer, but do you want to pay the additional funds to get him into the team when he could become a potential rotation risk? We don't really know that with Rodrigo. The return of Bamford, is that going to influence the game time of Rodrigo? That's going to be the big question mark right now. But Brian, I think the answer is you don't make any move right now. You hold, you wait until the actual double game week is announced, and then we can address that position. An ideal scenario for you would be this. Leeds play their fixture at home against Brentford. Rodrigo gets 70 minutes, for example, and we start to see a slight trend emerging where maybe he gets subbed off earlier for the likes of Bamford or Aronson, for example. So because of that, I don't think we can answer that question right now because I don't think it needs answering right now. I think we roll our free transfer, we gain a bit more information on these teams in hand, we get our guaranteed double game week 22 based on the FA Cup results, and then we move from there. Assam is saying, Leeds players, what about them? If you have just joined in, guys, just a heads up, potential double game week 22 based on the FA Cup results on the 28th of January, which is a Saturday. A double game week 22 will happen for Man United and Leeds if no FA Cup game needs a replay. So Man United versus Reading, as long as one team wins that game, and Leeds versus Boreham, there isn't a replay there, we will have a double game week for Man United and Leeds. And to reiterate the fixtures that they will have, Man United will be at home against Crystal Palace and Leeds in game week 22. And Leeds will be away against Nottingham Forest and away against Man United in 22. So realistically, based on that information, I think rolling the free transfer in game week 21 is a wise move. Gain the full confirmation going into game week 22 and then look to use our 2 free transfers to bring in a Man United third option and then maybe a token Leeds option if you want to go there. But realistically, I can see Osama saying about what about Ayling. I just could not recommend a Leeds defender right now. I think there is so much better value out there in the game. I think if anything, we're going to be going Noko, I believe, at Leeds. That is the pick that you want to really go for. Otherwise, you need to prioritise your transfers on getting triple Man United coverage. Martin saying Martinelli, Mitrovic, Kane, Haaland, or Kane, Darwin Pereira. Ooh, Martin, that's a really tricky one for me to answer there because you got 4 compared to 3, so you might have to rewrite the answer. Martin, thanks. Osama, I've covered that one. Evan, how's your mental health? I'll tell you what, Evan, fantastic question there in regards to FPL mental health. Mine personally, fantastic, thankfully. But I understand why FPL really does have an impact on people's mental health in general. And it's something that I think is starting to become, I say it's starting to become at the forefront of the conversation, but I've been in the community long enough to know, and I've actually written a kind of pre-season guide that I released about 4 or 5 years ago, which actually had a big section on mental health. And kind of talked about the real importance of FPL and mental health and how important it is to just disassociate yourself from the outcomes that FPL can create, because you can't control them at the end of the day. It's like horse racing. You can bet on the best horse, but you can't ride the horse. You don't know how that horse is going to do. So really important to disassociate yourself from the outcome. But for my personal mental health, I'm fantastic. I think, though, it's really important to have these discussions on these live streams and on these videos. For those that aren't, you know, as always, here to talk as ever, FPL Nacho on Twitter, on TikTok, on Instagram. Make sure you do drop a conversation if you ever need to. Eddie, do I sell Digne and Martial for sure? And now, Chinese has put a really good comment here because I've been pronouncing it wrong. So it's actually Nonto, G is silent. Thank you so much for that, because if anybody knows, and maybe a bit of an OG listener, follower, they'll know that my pronunciation of Region was actually Regulian. So if anyone was around those days, holy moly did I butcher that name, and I've butchered many Premier League names in the past. I should be probably called the Butcher, really. I should change my name FPL Butcher because I'm just horrendous at naming player names. But Eddie's saying, do I sell Digne and Martial for Shaw and Nonto for -4, or just Digne for who I got 2.8 million in the bank, 1 free? One free, got Trippier, Botman, Bueno, and White. Okay, so realistically, I would not be making those moves this game week, Eddie. I would be rolling my free transfer. I sound like a broken record, I get it. But you're in a position right now where those 2 moves that you're bringing in this week really aren't going to be benefiting this week, I don't think. Short away against Arsenal. Whereas once we get the confirmation of the double game week 22, after the game week 21 deadline, those moves could become imperative for your team. But for a -4, not really big on it personally. I need to know the rest of your squad depth to know whether you could just bench Digne and maybe start Martial in the hope that he does come on. Because the way I'm viewing Martial right now is either Martial starts or he gets 0 minutes. I'll be very surprised if Ten Hag thinks to himself, I'm going to put Martial on the bench but bring him on for 20 minutes, knowing that they're going to have an FA Cup and a double game week to follow. I think there's going to be more priority on getting Martial ready to start rather than bringing him on for 20 minutes personally. So guys, I think we're going to start wrapping up the live stream. I'll probably do another few minutes, but I'm conscious of the time. So if there's ever any questions you want to drop in the chat, now is the time to do it, because we're going to start slowly wrap up the live stream. But just to reiterate, and I'm going to bring up my team reveal here. This is how my team is looking going into game week 21. I'm rolling my free transfer. The big debates that I'm pretty much locked in on. I'm going to start Ward over Kepa. I'm going to be starting Ben White over Shaw. Main reason being Casemiro is ruled out with a suspension. I think that hinders the Man United clean sheet potential. I'm going to be captaining Haaland versus Kane. I think the live ownership of Haaland is going to be so big, it's going to really affect your rank if you go against him. And realistically, other than that, I think realistically that is how my team is pretty much set. I don't think there's any more deliberations in here. As I said, rolling the free transfer I think is imperative. Just to reiterate, in case people who just jumped on the stream and didn't know about it, double game week 22 is provisional for Man United and Leeds based on the FA Cup results. As long as there is no replay, we will get Man United and Leeds double game week in 22. Evan said, hold Martial for likely double game week despite health. Evan, I really empathise with the situation with Martial right now, because he's absolutely one of those players that you want for the double game week if he is going to be available, and his fitness is just so frustrating. I probably would hold though. I probably would hold this week and roll it into the next one. Martin's saying, will Brentford miss a game week? Martin, if they are to miss a game week, I'm still not in the know on that one, so I might have to come back to you on that one in a future stream. But for this game week, they aren't missing one at all. Eddie saying, rest of my squad is Edison, De Bruyne, Rashford, Fernandes, Martinelli, Haaland, Mitrovic. Thanks for your help. Okay, so realistically with your team here, I would probably start Edison in goal. You have to start Trippier. You have to start Botman. Wolves, with their fixture that they have, I wouldn't be looking just... So you'd bench Bueno, and I'd probably start Ben White. So I would have a back four of Trippier, Botman and White, and then I would bench Bueno and Digne. Then I think you would be in a position right now where I would start, of course, De Bruyne, Rashford, Fernandes, Martinelli. And then your front three of Martial, Mitrovic, Haaland. Yeah, I think that's probably what I'd do. I'd bench Digne. I would bench Bueno. And I would roll with the team you got. Absolutely understand that you probably want to move out with your players, but I think your starting 11 is strong enough to go for that move and just roll your free transfer. Ross, is going Tony captain this week stupid? Ross, no, I don't think it's stupid. One of the most informed players in the league right now. I just want to always reiterate with going for rank swings against... Sorry, I was catching on the comments there. Just want to reiterate in regards to when you go against Haaland. If you go against Haaland, the person that you captain blanks and Haaland goes off, it absolutely destroys your rank, speaking as somebody who has experience in this department. So what I will say is this. Don't mind the captaincy on Tony, but just be prepared of rank decimation if Tony doesn't deliver. And obviously you're in a position where obviously Haaland goes big. And Adrian has his Tony as captain right now. Yes, I like it. I just can't go against Haaland right now, personally. Martin saying, I've heard they may blank in game week 25. Yeah, I think there's definitely potential, Martin, but I think we will get a bit more information based on the FA Cup and Carabao Cup results. So I feel like, again, it comes back to it. Rolling your free transfer this week, getting the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup out of the way where potential fixtures will get announced just puts everybody in such a powerful position going into game week 22. So guys, I think we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for tuning into this live stream. Cheekster, massive shout out for moderating the chat. Always such a fantastic help, and it's great to see you so involved. Always appreciative of that, buddy. So thank you so much for that. And thank you to everybody that has been tuning in to this live stream. I really hope it's provided some value to you. Obviously, I feel like it's a bit of a quieter game week naturally because a lot of managers are going to be rolling their free transfer. But once again, Please do drop a like on the live stream if you did enjoy it. And if you are new to the channel, please do hit that subscribe button. It'd be awesome to have you on the journey so far this season. We have so much content still to come, so it'd be awesome to have you get involved. And that just leaves us to say have a great game week, guys, and we will see you in the next video next week. Take care. Cheers.